Well, hello guys, and welcome back to another episode of Wine Wednesdays. That actually felt really good to say. I feel like it's been a while. It's been a little while. There was no video last week, and I apologize. And the week before there was a video, to be fair, but it was an old video. So I feel like I haven't sat down and spoken to you for a while. The week before I had our good friend David. So today it's just me. Like I said, I was gonna go one week a guest, 1 week just me. So we're gonna have a good chat. Cheers. Whilst I was getting ready, I found myself, I'm just gonna jump straight into it. I found myself stood there actually, and just smiling, thinking back to the trip that I just took. So I just got back from Lisbon. It was a great trip. I think I'll insert some clips here. I was visiting a good friend of mine. So took a solo trip recently to Lisbon. But around this time last year, actually, I took my official first solo trip. Again, it was to Lisbon, and it was like so transformative, I'd say. So I thought it'd be a fun conversation to speak about, give some advice, because it's something I always highly recommend. So I hope you guys have a nice little glass of wine. I do wonder, actually, when you guys are watching this, do you drink along with a glass of wine, or... because that would be good. So I'm not here drinking alone. But yeah, so let's go back. I'd say it was 2016. It was around December time, early December. I remember I was working as a video editor. I remember I was feeling a bit down. That whole year had just been a tricky year for me. I feel like I'll do a separate video on that. It's a tricky one to talk about because I don't want to involve anyone else but myself and my experience. So it's just figuring out a way to tell that story without putting other people on the spot. But yeah, it had been a very hard year for me. I remember, I always say there's certain words I don't like to use. So the best way to put it, I felt like I'd lost my sparkle. Like, do with that what you will, but yeah. And so I remember just thinking, I need to do something about this. And I remember at the time, Abby, if you're watching this, shout out to you. I used to work with him, and he was like, maybe you should go away. And I remember that year I had been away a bit. We had been back to Uganda, which is where I'm from, for like a traditional wedding. And then I'd been to Barcelona for the first time, which I loved. But that was for my best friend's sister's hen weekend. So both trips, like, really enjoyed. I think I went somewhere else as well. So enjoyed all the trips so much, but I realized they weren't for me. So I remember thinking, like, maybe I should get away and just for myself. And so I was like, oh my God, maybe I'll do a solo trip. I'll go by myself. So I remember, if I do find it, I'll link it below, looking up an article, like, best places to travel as a young black woman by yourself, because I'm not gonna lie to you, I was a bit nervous. So I was looking up, like, where can I go, and so I came to the conclusion that I was gonna go to Berlin. So I look it up, I'm like, yeah, the flights aren't too bad, I find a good place where I can stay, and I'm like, yeah, I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna solo travel. This will, I don't know, something in my gut just told me this will shake things up for me and just give me that reset that I needed. I like truly felt like I needed. I don't know if you've ever felt like, or maybe you're going through it right now, like you're in a rut, you're in a dark place, or everything just feels like, that's how you feel when you wake up in the morning. That was how I was feeling. And I'm someone who, you've seen here on my channel, it's not an act, like I'm a very happy, bubbly person. So to feel that way was a big, massive shift for me. So yes, I decided I'm gonna go to Berlin. So as I'm looking at flights, I remember this girl who I had met through my best friend. She messaged me randomly, and she was just like, hey, how you doing? How you doing? She did not say how you doing. She was just like, hey, how are you? Just checking in, seeing how you're doing. There we go. It was so random for her to message because we hadn't spoken in a couple of days. So it was a nice random message. But she also happened to be half German, I want to say. Yeah, if not half quarter, but I think she was half German, and she had never spoke the language. But I remember us one time, we were sat just having a conversation about things, and her saying it's a side she would like to see more of. She'd love to go there, and like it's part of her like culture, you know. So her messaging me, I was like, I'm a big believer in the universe and God and like you being sent a sign. I was like, what are the chances of her randomly messaging me as I'm looking at flights to Berlin? So I was like, random. I'm currently looking at flights to Berlin. I'm probably going to book them tonight, and we'd be going next week. Will you be down? And she said yes. I was like, okay, let's do this. And then because I had met her through my best friend, I was like, there's no way I can invite her and not invite my best friend Ruth. If you're watching, shout out to you. So message Ruth. I'm like, Ruth, listen, I'm about to book this. I'm going with this girl. Would you want to come? And she was like, yeah, let's do it. So we all booked the flights that night, started a group chat. Like, it was really exciting, and it gave me some excitement. Like, fair enough, I thought I was going to be going on a solo trip, but just the thought of knowing I'm going to be able to get out of the country and explore and see somewhere new, it lifted my spirits a bit. Like, it didn't do much, but it did something, which was nice. Now, let me tell you something about me. If I have to deliver awkward or bad news, I'm going to find a cute way to go about doing it. So I remember I made us a nice itinerary, and then for one day, like, I was like, okay, we can do this, and I said, I'm open to suggestions, any other places you want to go, let me know. But on one of the days, I called I still remember to this day, the day was called Do You Boo Day. And I remember saying to them, like, listen, for this day, it's just going to be me. I'm going to spend the whole day by myself. You guys can go and do whatever you want, be that together, by yourselves. And by the way, I'm someone who suffers severely from FOMO. Like, I think it's an actual condition that needs to be studied. So the fact that I was willing to have them go off and do something without me, and I didn't mind, I was very proud of myself. But I knew even though I was going away with them, I still needed that one day just for me in another country. So we ended up going, when was it? I think it was Boxing Day we flew out. So we had booked it like the week before. So this was the week before Christmas. And yeah, I think that's what triggered me as well. Like, I love Christmas. I love any holiday. Like, I love the lead up to Halloween, the lead up to Christmas, the lead up to Easter. I even celebrate Thanksgiving. Well, I do Friendsgiving with my friends. Like, I'm a holidays person, okay? But yeah, I just wasn't feeling it. So anyway, had a good time at Christmas, knowing especially we're flying out the next day. So we get there, the first couple of days, like, we had a great time. So those were the first 2 days there. And then on the third day, that was the Do You Boo Day. So that was the day I was spending by myself. So I remember, I'll never forget, they left, like, in the morning, I'm a tyrant, okay? I was like, 9 a.m, let's wake up, let's go, let's be going. And so they left and they went. And I even just having like the hotel room to myself, like, I can put myself back there. And I just remember the minute they walked out of the hotel room, I remember I just started crying while I was getting ready, and it just felt like a release. But it also didn't feel like bad tears. They definitely weren't good tears, but they were just more tears of release. And so I was just there, just getting ready. I had no plans for the day, but I was just like, the day is going to take me where the day is going to take me. I'm just going to live each minute as it comes. So I spent my time, got ready, went downstairs, had a little walk outside, found like a coffee shop that was near us, picked up a coffee for the road, and then like I made my way to the local like tram station. I think it was tram or train, I can't remember. Yeah, so I got on like I'm pretty sure it was a tram or a train, whichever, and I made my way into like the main town. Again, I had no idea, like no plan whatsoever, just going with the flow. And even just like being sat, I don't, this is why I always recommend, if you're going through something, sometimes just getting out of the country can really help. And if you can do it by yourself, depending on in what state you're in, you might need people around you. But there was just something, I don't even want to say the word magical because it diminishes it, but okay, healing. There was something so healing about it, and at the time I didn't realize it was healing, but I felt something. And I remember I was sat on this, like, just looking out of the window, and again, just feeling so emotional, just like all the emotions taking over. But again, I guess in that moment, not knowing what to do with the emotions, just letting them come out, like not really knowing. I knew somewhat the source of them, but there were deeper emotions that I didn't know what the source was. And so I get into town, and then I'm walking around, and I go in some shops, and I'm like, it's not retail therapy I need for today. So I keep like just walking around this, I guess you could call it like shopping center type place. Walking around, and then I come across a bookstore. Now, here is a fun fact about me. I'm not much of a reader, I'm gonna be honest. I'm gonna hold my hands up. More audiobooks, podcasts kind of girl. But yeah, I decided to walk into this bookshop. I don't know why. I was just letting, I guess you could say, God and the universe and my instincts just lead me. So I walk into this bookstore, and I'm walking around just looking at the books. And then I get to a section where there's like notebooks, and I remember there was this white notebook. I took it out and decided, I'm gonna buy this. I bought it. And they had like a coffee shop at the top of this bookshop. And I remember going upstairs, I bought a pen as well, and just writing and just like writing my feelings as they came to my mind. Like everything I was thinking, everything I was feeling. I remember that first page was probably like tear stained. Like I was crying as I was writing. I was surprised by some of the stuff that was coming out of me. I didn't know I felt that way. Like I had a specific thought of, I feel this way because of this. I didn't realize there was so much else surrounding it, and it wasn't just as simple as it's because of that. I remember I wrote multiple letters to myself. I wrote letters to other people. I wrote poems. I wrote, like, it was, I think there is a clip. I think I've spoken about this on this channel before, like about a year on from it. So in 2017, and I remember reading it out, even just thinking about what I wrote now. Like if I were to like read it word for word, I would like choke up. Like I'm choking up a bit now. And just in that moment, I remember just feeling, it just felt so good to get it out. So I would recommend, even if you can't go away, people always say there is a power in writing things down, because you could be holding in things you don't even know about. So yeah, I did that. I spent a good amount of time there, walked around for a bit more, and then I met up with the rest of them in the evening, and then we like enjoyed our final day out there together. And then when I got home, I remember thinking, okay, I didn't feel like, woo, yeah, everything's okay, we're good now. But I did feel like, you know what, you're gonna be okay. And that was, you could call it the start of that process of healing. And I remember by New Year's, I felt so much better. The start of the year, even better. Like the main issue that had been an issue, I'm speaking in riddles because, you know, it's not fully my story, if that it is, but there's certain things I do want to protect. So yeah, that even started to get better. The main issue that was sorry if it doesn't make sense. And yeah, 2017 started at an all-time high, and I say, like, I ended up getting into a relationship, or meeting the person I got into a relationship like February of 2017. And had I not done all of that work, I would not have been ready to meet him when I met him. It would have gone, it still went a bit, but that was years later. All good. I highly recommend solo traveling, or just getting away from your normal surroundings, shall we say, if you can't afford to travel anywhere, because it did me like the world of good. Like, as you can see, even though I got a bit emotional, I look back at it and my heart is just so happy. Like that feeling of releasing, like being able to release myself from that negative feeling I had and getting to the point that I got to and knowing like who I'm able to be now. It's a more on solo travel. Highly recommend. So that was 2017, and then fast forward, like after that, you know, working, money got a bit tight, so I didn't get to travel as much. Then I decided to try and do this full time. So I'm just trying to make it, fighting for my life. And then I started to travel with other people a bit more, earning a bit better. And then last year, because then I was saving to move into this place, and then I moved in. So last year, September, took my first official solo trip. Now here's another tip for you guys. If you're a bit nervous to solo travel by yourself, which I definitely was, even though I was ready to do it back in 2017, I was probably a lot more fearless. I was probably at a point in my life I was like, fuck it, whatever happens, happens. Whereas now I'm like, oh my God, I love everything in my life. I don't want anything to happen. But what I do is I go to places where I know someone who lives there. So the first place I went to was Lisbon, and at the time, like I said, my friend Armani, I'm sure you've seen him on this channel, or Armenio, that's his actual name. This was last year, September, he was living there. So I went out there to see him, and again, like I had a couple of days where he went out, introduced me to some of his friends and stuff, and we all had like a good time. We went out, but there were other days where I'm like, no, it's just me. I just want time for just me. I'd go out to dinner with myself, to lunch with myself. I remember I found this place that was by the water, not so much beach, but there's like outdoor restaurants near it and you can walk along the water. And I remember I sat there for hours just looking at the water, like watching the sun set on the water. It was like the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my life. Like I was just so amazed by it. And I know it sounds so simple, and like there's water everywhere, like there's literally water outside my apartment, but it was just it was so nice. And that was, again, I felt like I needed a reset at that point because of certain situations that had happened around that time. So again, it was like just I need to get away a bit, you could call it healing somewhat, but it wasn't really healing that. It was because of a boy, okay? I was getting over something, ending with somebody who I had been dating. It hit me hard a bit, I guess you could say, so I needed to just get away from things. So that was nice, and like I made a point to be like, I'm not going to go on any, because let me tell you something else about traveling and solo traveling. People are a lot more friendly when they see you by yourself. Great time to go on different dates, but then I was like, no dates. I'm not going to engage. Even if I see a guy and he is attractive, just look. Like, I'm not going on any dates. Like, I just need to just get over that. And so it was really good for that. I had a good time. And then in January this year, I was like, New Year's Eve, what am I doing? I was sat in my apartment on Boxing Day, like, I don't have any plans. What should I do? And last minute, I was just like, let me spend New Year's Day in LA. Let me go to LA, because I have a friend, Ari, who's living out there, and another friend, Joanna, who's living out there. So I was like, let me go. So I flew out on New Year's Day. And again, I think I saw Joanna once. I think I only saw her once while I was there. My friend Ari, again, I saw once, and I was there for like a week. So the rest of the time, again, let me tell you something. I love being in other countries and going out to eat by myself, because you just get to like take in the restaurant, and you really enjoy the food. Because normally when I'm out eating with people, I talk a bit, so I'm busy talking more than eating. So I'm getting to enjoy the food, and I'll be honest, I order like 3 main courses because I want to try a bit of everything. And it's just, so that was a really good trip. That trip I did date. And I enjoyed it. Hello men, they're very interesting. Maybe I'll do a separate video on them. But all in all, that was good. Did I do another solo trip? I guess you could call, like I said, I just went to Lisbon again a few days ago. I literally got back day before yesterday, and that was a good trip also. Had a good time out there. So I'm a big advocate for solo tripping. I'm easing my way into it, and I'm gonna branch out further. But all in all, like, I highly recommend it. I don't have a bad word to say about it. No negatives, only positives. And it's great, like, building of your own character, like character building as well, because you're putting yourself out there, you're meeting new people because you're by yourself, and you will meet new people. It's such a special experience. If you've done it, I'm sure you can relate. I'm sure there's people that have been even further than me, but regardless, I highly recommend. So yeah, I think I'm gonna leave it there for now. Next week's guest, I'm just finalizing getting them, because yes, we'll see. But if I do get them on, it's gonna be a fun episode, and if it's not next week I have them, it will probably be the week after. So if it is the case, then you'll have another episode of just me, and maybe I'll touch on one of the topics that I briefly touched on within this. But yeah, as always, I hope you guys did enjoy this. If you did, feel free to like, comment, share, subscribe, all that good stuff I meant to ask you to do. Please do. And I'm just rambling now, and I don't really know how to end this, so I'm just gonna go.